Today, I would like you to imagine you are 6 years old, sitting in a little blue kindergarten chair. You're coloring a picture of, let's say, clouds and a sky, but you don't have a blue crayon. So you look around the room and you ask your neighbor, "Can I have a blue crayon?" you ask. The all-knowing, ever-present teacher hears you speak and says, "Alex, I said level 0. That's a clip down." Your heart sinks. You see your teacher move toward the clip chart where she moves your name from green to yellow. You know that green means good, but now you are on yellow, which means watch out. Today, I'm going to talk about this interaction that might occur in a classroom under a behavior chart system. Today, I'm going to go over some formal and informal reports on behavior charts, which, spoiler alert, is not an evidence-based practice. And I will go over why teachers use the system, their opinions of the system, and provide some opportunities to look into a better system. So first, let's look at what the behavior chart represents. Have you seen or experienced a chart that looks like this? I remember this chart vividly from kindergarten. I was a green card kid. I remember one time moving my card to yellow and felt so embarrassed. My whole class saw, and my parents would most likely find out soon, was the feeling I was feeling. Also, if I did something else wrong, I could end up going to the principal's office. In the mid-90s, at the very least at many schools, this behavior chart was in full swing. Once you were on yellow, it was all downhill from there. After reflecting on my own experience in kindergarten, I decided to ask a few friends to reflect on any memories they had of behavior charts when they were in school. These are some of the feelings they remember having. I remember being embarrassed when I had to change my color. I was definitely afraid of it. I remember feeling very nervous. I thought it wasn't fair, and some students were targeted more for mishaps in the classroom. Injustice, loss of trust with teacher figure. It was extremely embarrassing. Even after 20 years, these memories stick with us. We need a solution that keeps students physically and emotionally safe in our classrooms. So let's look at this other clip chart. Recently, educators have moved towards the behavior chart called the clip chart, popularized by Rick Morris in 2009. There is at least some redemption within this system because you can at least work your way back up if you make a wrong move. However, I don't believe this system has brought our behavior management to where it needs to be. There are so many challenges every day in the classroom, especially for teachers. With upwards of 25 to 30 or more students in a classroom, it can be a major challenge to manage, especially if the teacher is brand new. A quick fix to regaining control could be to use a behavior chart or clip system. The problem is, students often see a teacher who is angry at them, and they feel targeted. The student often feels shame because they did something bad, when in reality, the teacher is often stressed, frustrated, trying to regain control of the classroom, or attempting to identify students to redirect. Under these systems, the teacher intervenes in the moment with a clip up or clip down. So, as we discussed previously, green means good, but it is not always the best color on the clip chart. Students who stay on green or move up throughout the day can receive a clip up, a verbal recognition, positive peer recognition, a tangible item, and or a positive note home. Rewards are usually consistent and applied to the whole class who are not on red or yellow. Typically, a majority of the class remains on these colors over the course of the day. However, Other students, typically outliers who need more redirects or warnings, are often moved to yellow, then red. Students on yellow typically receive a clip down, a reminder, a warning, or a reprimand. As you can see from this list, the consequences have a wide range and depend heavily on the school discipline policies, state laws, and teacher management style. Some consequences are done within the classroom with the teacher, while other consequences send students away from the classroom community to be handled by someone else. Sometimes, multiple punishments can be given for a low-level, repetitive misbehavior, such as talking out of turn or defiance. These consequences can escalate quickly when there are no evidence-based positive behavior interventions in place. So, what about the research? Now that we know what a behavior chart looks like and its function, let's look at the research. To be honest, I really struggled to find professional articles on behavior charts. There were tons of journals on behavior prevention and classroom management, but there were hardly any journals that looked into the role of behavior charts. I was struck by this since I know many teachers use this system and have since I was young. As I delved deeper into researching teacher beliefs, I found some researchers who interviewed teachers who use behavior charts in their classrooms. These three peer-reviewed journals identified and contributed non-evidence-based practices, such as behavior charts, to gaps in teacher preparation courses, a focus on negative behavior and control, school discipline policies, and a recycle of ineffective practices. I did not find any journals that recommend behavior charts as a strategy. The behavior chart is not an evidence-based practice. Research solutions focus on identifying evidence-based practices such as praise, token economy, opportunities to respond, student self-regulation, positive guidance, social-emotional curriculum, RTI, and PBIS, and many more. Since there is a lack of professional journals discussing behavior charts in the databases, I looked at 17 reports, blogs, and articles from parents, teachers, and therapists discussing the pros, cons, and alternatives to behavior charts. So there are many reasons why teachers still use behavior charts or think that they are a good option. So let's look at the positives. After looking at these reports, teachers identified that they like the charts because they are visual, easy to use, and they motivate students to behave. Some other pros of behavior charts is that they create goals for students. They provide peer accountability. They assist in tracking and communicating behavior, and they help to provide differentiation. However, when I look at these lists, it makes sense why teachers would use these charts. Students do need aids to visualize learning, and since the classroom teacher has many things to worry about, he or she would benefit from an easy system to motivate students. But I wonder, are we motivating students toward the right goals? Are we asking students to hold peers accountable to the right things? Are we tracking and communicating the right data? Are we providing differentiation in a mindful way? Many teachers in these reports listed concerns about behavior charts. The two main concerns of behavior systems from the 17 reports were students who were targeted experienced shame, embarrassment, self-esteem issues. Oftentimes, students repeated the same behaviors without much growth, and teachers felt that students were not learning new skills. Teachers report feeling they are punishing students, and that the charts teach students to be people-pleasing, sneaky, judgmental. There's much more focus on the chart rather than learning, and ultimately it damages the student-teacher relationship. In addition to these teacher reports, we have a systemic problem in our school systems where students are cast out from the learning environment because of bad behavior. There is not a direct connection between these charts and the school to the prison pipeline, but from my experience, students on the outskirts of the classrooms are identified as red or yellow students to peers, to teachers, and to parents. What does this communicate to our children? Where do people who seem bad go? It's not difficult to make the connection. So my conclusion is teachers simply need more support. The behavior chart system is a slippery slope towards punitive practices. It is often left to the discretion of the school or teacher to determine consequences. Evidence-based practices are often time-consuming and are not a quick fix. It takes a community effort to implement restorative, positive, trauma-informed, evidence-based practices. Teachers need support from admin, therapists, and parents because they cannot do the heavy lifting alone. So, are there other easy visual options for teachers? I've identified 3 systems educators are using in their classrooms. These have not been formally researched, but they are a good start and are aligned with evidence-based approaches. The therapist Robin Goebel developed a system based on self-regulation. This system is different from the behavior chart because each student has a personalized chart to keep with them, and the student is in control. The teacher describes to students the low energy state, the calm state, and the high energy state. Students are taught to tune into their bodies and recognize how they respond to situations. Other lessons on topics such as coping skills would be needed to teach students what to do when they are in a blue or red zone. Each student works toward the green zone and are able to use the visual to communicate how their body feels. The second strategy is called the feelings chart. This strategy was developed by Blackley and Dean, 2 teaching consultants in New York City. They have spent many days in classrooms observing the negative effects of behavior charts and are working with teachers to create more peace. With this strategy, students are able to communicate emotions to their teacher and classmates throughout the day. One of the stories shared by the consultants was a student who was scared during a drill. The student was able to run to the chart and put his name on the scared pocket. This way, the teacher was able to move toward the student in order to comfort him rather than the student acting out in some other way. In psychology, they say name it to tame it, which is the idea if you label your emotions, the emotions will feel less overwhelming. We must give children language to discuss their emotions and cannot assume they have the language to communicate on their own. The third system I would like to talk about is the token economy. In this system, students work together to earn a social reward. Marble jars are often used in classrooms to motivate students, but in this system, by Jillian Starr, students receive individualized recognition for doing something brave and thinking outside the box. Once students reach the top of the jar, the class throws a marble jar party to celebrate all the bravery and smart thinking. With this token economy, students hold each other accountable and are motivated to take risks and push themselves. The teacher is able to recognize each student for their efforts. In other words, they're able to differentiate. Teachers. We have the faces of the next generation sitting in front of us. Early education classrooms are on the front line. We all know bullying and casting out students begins early. We must do what we can to model and teach students empathy and emotional intelligence. We need to listen to our students' feedback. When they have big feelings and behaviors, they are communicating to us. It is our job to listen. It is our job to take care of ourselves so we can be there for them. Let each of us take a look into how we can expand our teaching to embrace every student in our classroom. This always begins with looking at ourselves, our biases, our reactions, our classrooms. Let us continue to advocate for better systems and more support. Let us continue to work together to love and be love. Thank you.